But let's keep it fun this morning. And that continues with our next guest, Travis Lulay, joining us from Grey Cup Week in Calgary of the BC Lions and Rogers Sportsnet. Good morning, Travis. How are you, friend?
I am doing great and enjoying all of Grey Cup festivities so far here.
Well, I see your boy Arash is at Davis Cup Tennis, so he's normally your guy at Grey Cup. So who are you working with this year?
Working with Sean Reynolds. Sean Reynolds, veteran Sportsnet guy. He's based out of Winnipeg, loves the CFL. So we've had a pretty good rapport as the week goes on, talking this Bombers Ticats matchup.
Well, I got a lot of things to get with you, and these guys do as well. But your take on the awards last night and the way they went. Aren't any arguments with any of the winners?
I don't think so. No, I think everybody who won was very deserved of winning. I mean, it's hard. Like, obviously, I think Craig Dickinson had a great year as a head coach. I thought Kahari Jones did, and Orlando Steinauer. Everybody, really, you could have made a case for any of them. So, yeah, the fact, only one guy wins the award. Obviously, it was Craig and Orlando, and so I thought he gave a very gracious speech afterwards, and kind of got a feel for why that Hamilton group is pretty tight knit. But Speedy winning MOP was probably his time to win it. I thought Cody had a very good year, but Speedy's been doing it for a number of years, and maybe just the way it's an outstanding player award. I think
Yes.
I think Speedy was, I really think it's different than being the most valuable player, which you'd have an argument, obviously, that Cody was extremely important in Saskatchewan. But from an outstanding player point of view, Speedy had a tremendous year that was, he scored a ton of touchdowns, big yardage, and all that stuff. So I thought the Simone, Willie Jefferson, Simone had some certain stats that would have maybe said, yeah, but Willie also did 16 knockdowns as a defensive lineman. So I think that was deserved. And so really all across the board, it was a good setup. I thought everybody who should have won did, and away we go.
Yeah, boy, I could go on for hours with you. I'm getting more upset about the Cody thing because he was outstanding too. He led the league in passing. And actually, my wife said to me last night, she goes, I never heard of Cody until this year. And I actually met him at Ottawa when you won the Gord Barwell Trophy at the Athletes in Action morning breakfast. Had you known Cody before that?
No, I didn't know Cody before he joined our team last year. I kind of had reached out to him, and we had chatted once or twice before he came up. But yeah, we hit it off and became close friends. And this will make you feel a little better, Rod. I sat down with Cody the other night and just kind of doing a debrief of what had been a wild year for him. Really a crazy year, kind of a life-changing year for Cody. And, from the outside as a friend, we've chatted about Cody before. It was fun, but just to sit down and hear it from his mouth was a cool opportunity. Obviously, it was tough losing a Western final. I've lost a West final at home. I know how much that means and how hard that is to get over that loss. But we're pulling it back, looking big picture, and thinking about what a cool year it was for Cody. But to my point is here, Cody goes, yeah, I think this is Speedy's year to win. And I know Cody's a humble, gracious dude, and he did. You're right. A lot of things he did were outstanding. It's hard when you look at the comparison of what, say, the highest, the passing totals of quarterbacks winning in years past. The last few years, we've seen some ridiculous numbers of guys throwing for 5,500 yards and 30 touchdowns and things like that. So, Cody's stuff his stats were maybe pulled back a little. A lot of rushing touchdowns, and I mean, he did. He had a great year. He was deserving to win it in another given year. But I think I kind of tend to decide with the voting with the voters who picked Speedy just for an outstanding player this year.
The Players Association All-Star Team. Have I read it right that it's the most coveted team to be named to if you're a player because the players vote on it? And then your thoughts on Kahari Jones being named Player of the Year or Coach of the Year, Andrew Harris being snubbed, but the Ottawa long snapper Barassa being voted, and they both did the same thing. Kind of wild when I'm reading that All-Star list.
Yeah, I'll say this. Look, and I don't mean to disparage the CFLPA All-Star lists, but it is often funny. There are times when, for example, I'll say this. A couple of years ago in BC, so the rule goes you have to get at least 70% representation from your locker room to independently fill out the form, turn it back into your player reps, to turn it back into the league. And one year we didn't have enough guys turn it in. So that meant that no Lions players were up for CFLPA All-Star in a year that Adam Bighill was named the most outstanding defensive player in the Canadian Football League. He wasn't a CFLPA All-Star based on the rule. And so there, sometimes there's guys in funny positions. Like if I'm voting in years past between Maurice Leggett and Solomon Elamimian, because they're just in a generic linebacker thing. That this was always one of my huge beefs. I'm like, that is so. I know he's traditionally the Sam linebacker spot. Call it the rover, call it the nickel. Guys call it a different thing, but that guy plays a different game than a middle linebacker. And so to vote on them against each other in an all-star setting is always funny. And I think the league delineates between that a little bit better now. But so sometimes you see some funny results that make you scratch your head a little bit on the PA vote, and you named a few this year.
Travis, John Lynch here. What's the situation with the coach now of the BC Lions? What you thinking there?
Boy, I mean, I think what I know is that it's just in full search. I know they're with the decision to let go of Devon Claybrooks, that just means they want to get another voice at the front of the room. And I know those conversations are taking place right now. And I'm sure Ed Hervey's making the appropriate calls and doing the things that he needs to do. Look, it's not the way anybody planned it. You feel bad for Devon just on a personal level, coming in with so much excitement, and the year obviously didn't go the way anybody hoped or planned. And they management made a tough decision to think that what was best for the club at the time was to find a new voice at that spot. So it's just one of the things that's always a possibility in sport. I think there's a good coach in Devon. I don't know if I don't know the insides of what happened, in the locker room, how the guys were responding to him and stuff. I thought for the most part, he held the room. Guys want to speak, relatively highly of Devon even after he'd been let go. So, there's something that says something about him, and there's no question he's a good coach. Like, he's been doing it a long time. So he'll land on his feet and be better for it. Ultimately, it's a tough process to have to go through sometimes, but I do think this next hire in BC is critically important particularly because of the way the last one went. So I know they're going to do their due diligence and try to find the best people to help this organization feel good and win some football games again.
Travis, a couple of things for you. First, and this is what happens in Saskatchewan. So people are tying you to this province, I think, from your association with this show. But we've been talking about the future of Stephen McAdoo, and potential replacement could be Steve Walsh, the quarterback's coach. And now people are suggesting, well, Travis Lulay would be the perfect guy to be our quarterback's coach in Saskatchewan. You just talked about having a nice sit down with Cody Fajardo, maybe doing some work. What's your intentions if something were to open up and your off season going to look like?
Yeah, no, I'm flattered by anyone that thinks me worthy to step in that kind of a role. But you know what, I've not entirely closed the door on a coaching potentiality. That said, I do think at this time that's not something that I wanted to pursue when I was quite done playing, and I don't really think that's changed to this point. I never say never. I'm open to ideas, but there's a lot that goes into coaching, and obviously you got to be all the way in to be really good coach. And so again, I'm always flattered by people think that. I do think that if and when that time came, that's where I pointed my energy. I do think I could be good at it. And I do love a lot of the aspect of coaching and helping guys who are younger than me become better players and maybe make an impact in that way. I'm helping coach my 5 and 7-year-old daughter's basketball team, so coaching is certainly in my blood on some levels, but whether I'm going to pursue that right after the season here, there's no plans.
Now the coach, the next coach of BC Lions, at this time, what's happened to the Lions the last 3 or 4 years, a tragedy, I think, and they better turn it around pretty quick. It could be real serious out there, some real problems. So I imagine the next coach has got to be a really special guy.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I alluded to. It really is an important hire now. And it always is in the business of football. It always is. But the more, the longer the duration of, not being competitive, the harder and harder it gets to dig out of that hole. Right. And so, so certainly that's the feeling. I mean, coming off a 5-win season, there's no question that, it's, everybody's looking around trying to make the whole thing better. And a head coach is a critical piece of that puzzle. So, you can't afford to miss.
Travis, lastly, your take on the 107th Grey Cup. Have you made your pick yet?
I think I have. I'll be up front. I think I kind of made this pick prior to the playoffs at all. It just felt like it just has had a feel in the back half of the season that this was Hamilton's year to win. And I think they were a 15-win team for a reason, being around. There's a number of guys on that coaching staff that I've played with and for, in guys like Robin Ross and Randy Melvin and Mark Washington and Jeff Reinbold, guys that I talked to throughout the week and trying to get a little bit of an insight into how the year went and how they feel about the locker room. And all of them to the same thing. You just feel like they have good rapport, really good chemistry throughout. It's a resilient team, obviously, to maintain playing at a high level and having high expectations week in, week out, even when they lost an MLP candidate a year ago and Jeremiah Masoli, and a lot of people probably counted him out. So I still think this is Hamilton's game to lose on Sunday. That said, this Winnipeg team is impressive, and being around them for the week, I just mentioned how resilient Hamilton is. This Winnipeg team is very much built that way too. There's some really good veteran leadership in that room. Obviously, guys that I'm close with in Andrew Harris and Adam Bighill, and I'm talking to them, and I'm like, you guys are you guys letting the rest of the room know like how precious this opportunity? Obviously, when we won a Grey Cup in 2011. Biggie was a rookie special teamer. Andrew Harris had only started 6 or 7 games, right? Now they're like elite pros in the CFL. And it's been a long journey for them to get back in position to potentially win a Grey Cup. So those guys are really hungry for the opportunity. They're, tremendous football players. And shoot, the Zach Calero story is phenomenal. I think he's kind of downplaying it and he's stoic at the podium, but I'm going, man, I didn't know if we'd ever see Zach Calero play football again, period, let alone, leading a team into a Grey Cup game. He's got to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder saying, I know there were guys who thought I was done playing one, thought I couldn't play at a high level anymore. And, I'm sitting here at the podium and they're not, right? So you got to tip your hat to Zach and the Winnipeg coaching staff for what they've been able to do to kind of assimilate him. So I think this is a tremendous matchup. I'm going to stick with my original intuition from before the playoffs and give Hamilton the nod, but this is really shaping up to be a great game.
It's an absolutely salacious matchup for all the reasons you said. Travis, thanks for your time. Thanks for being you, and enjoy Grey Cup weekend.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.